We have a major update revolving around the Boston Celtics as Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics number one player on this team, Jayson Tatum, has an injury update that we have got to break down, as he was just seen at Chris Paul's training camp, and the rumors are sparking that Tatum could see some start to play, maybe even this season. So what does that mean for Joe Mazzulla, Brad Stevens, and this Celtics team as they gear up for a new year? We'll be getting into all of that and more on this latest episode of Celtics Digest. I'm your host, Bruce Veliz, and I really do appreciate all the love and support you guys have been showing down below in the comment section for Patrick and I. So let us know your thoughts on this Jayson Tatum update, and if you guys would like to see him come back this season, or if you would like the Celtics to hold him out for the whole season and just wait to next year. Without further ado, we're going to get into this latest update. So make sure to grab your snack, hit that like button, and let's get into the update, as this is absolutely amazing to hear if you are a Boston Celtics fan, in my opinion, as we all have been concerned about the Jayson Tatum injury. We've all been concerned about going into this season, and it's been a big discussion on where the Celtics ultimately will fall. Patrick and I did a little bit of our breakdown and deep dive of comparing the Celtics amongst the rest of the teams in the Eastern Conference in our last live stream last week. So if you missed that, you can check out the VOD and see where we placed the Boston Celtics. But a lot of people are very, up and down on this team. Some people think they're going to be towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Some people think they're going to be in that middle near the play-in. Some people think they could even potentially be, a top 4, top 5 seed in this Eastern Conference. But what we do know with this Celtics team is they are going into the year with Jayson Tatum with an injury. And we saw, like I mentioned, Chris Paul and Jayson Tatum at CP3's camp. And I tweeted out just as a joke, let's get CP3 over to Boston, my favorite NBA player of all time. I'd love it if Jayson Tatum could convince him for a revenge tour to go win the chip if the Clippers don't win this season and not to retire. But that is not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the possibility of Jayson Tatum rejoining the Celtics late in the regular season. And apparently that has not been ruled out per Steve B. Hoop. As scouts say, he's been moving really well at CP3's camp. He said, I'm no doctor, but I've seen guys coming back from Achilles tears, and he looked way ahead. I was kind of shocked to see how well he was moving. I have no idea for what any of this means for when he can come back. I'm sure him and the Celtics medical people have their program set up, and they'll make sure that he'll get what he needs when he does get back. But he does look great now. Of course, he didn't do any running or even jogging, but he was in great shape, and he had no trouble doing his part at the camp. That's just amazing to hear, obviously. A really physical movement for Jayson Tatum, but so far, if you've been paying attention to the updates that Patrick and I have been giving here on the channel, you guys have been staying up to date and seeing that Jayson Tatum has been progressing very well, right? He's already talked about posting motivational posts on his Instagram story, working out. He is out of the boot, and we did break that down in our latest video talking about Jayson Tatum. But once again, you guys can see here Jayson Tatum walking without a boot less than 3 months after he already had his Achilles surgery. And that's just crazy to see for a star player. Like I said, everyone is already talking about how well he is progressing, and we all know that he got that surgery right after, right? It was like immediate, and everyone was saying that if you get the surgery immediately, it can lead to a better recovery, maybe more a stable one, a healthier one for Jayson Tatum. That's what all the doctors were saying. Luckily, he was in New York where his specialist was. They performed the surgery, and once they performed it, we have now seen Jayson Tatum in his recovery, and all signs in his recovery have been positive so far. They've all looked great, like he is ahead of schedule, and that is a great blessing for this Boston Celtics team, as like I mentioned, so much uncertainty on what this team truly can be. If you want to look at the roster, if we get into that here, we already have seen so far, it is a pretty solid roster. Derrick White, Anthony Simons if he's on the roster, Jaylen Brown, Georges Niang, Namish Keita in that starting center position. Obviously a little bit of a big hole there, but guys like Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Jordan Walsh, who looked good in the summer league, all can make some dominant potential sticks with this Celtics secondary rotation to make some implants. We saw Baylor Shireman have a struggling in his shooting department in the summer league, but I do think if he is able to kind of get out of that shooting slump, we could see some great progress in Baylor Shireman's game as well within this Celtics unit. Hugo Gonzalez, we'll see where he kind of really fits in within this rotation as well, kind of fighting for minutes. But I do think that this Boston Celtics team, and like me and Patrick discussed, is still a pretty solid team in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if it's top 4, top 5, but I do think that it's still in that play-in playoff kind of destination. And if they add a guy and Jayson Tatum, right, with that kind of record, obviously, he's going to be rehabbing. He's not going to be, full 100%. But if they can get him in late March, early April for some of those end of the season games where Tatum is, playing against some bad teams or teams are resting their starters late into the season. These could be some great ramp-up games for a guy in Jayson Tatum to pick up the speed, get to the NBA kind of level before the NBA playoffs, and not just be thrown into a gauntlet situation. Now, obviously, the Boston Celtics could do the precautious thing as well, seeing where they fall if they are, a 6 or 7 seed and be kind of like, hey, we can kind of chalk up this season. We at least made the playoffs. We gave an interesting run this year. Let's just rest Jayson Tatum and get him ready for the start of the season, and I would not be shocked if that's the case either. But I also, once again, would not be shocked if he is back with this Celtics team before the start of the season with all the reports that we have seen so far. Now, obviously, the Celtics are still mulling their decisions on still the free agent market and everything like that. We all know they still do have one open roster spot after waiving J.D. Davison. There was an update that you guys will see a video on later in the channel, probably tomorrow, coming out about Charles Bassey, because the latest around him is that he would like to come to the Boston Celtics. So maybe he gets a training camp deal, maybe he gets a non-guaranteed contract offer going into training camp, like I just mentioned, and could potentially find himself to be that 15th roster spot and competing amongst the likes of that center rotation of guys like Namish Keita, Luka Garza, maybe even Xavier Tillman, and etc. Or we could see him potentially going to another team or even back to the EuroLeague like he is personally considering. But once again, the Celtics still have that open roster spot. They still have the flexibility to make moves, not that they are underneath the second apron. And with that being said, the Boston Celtics can make basically virtually any move. They can trade Anthony Simons if they want. They can trade Georges Niang. They can move some of these smaller contracts. And that's something to keep an eye on as well as we get closer to the season. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, what you guys ultimately think on this Jayson Tatum update. Personally, I am super psyched to see a guy like Jayson Tatum progressing this well. I really want to see the best for him, regardless if that's him back this season or for the next year. I'm ultimately not decided on what I would like to see. Obviously, like I mentioned, if the Celtics are in a good spot, they could use Jayson Tatum and make a second half push in the playoffs. I think it would be very fun to see Jayson Tatum, but ultimately I don't want to rush him or put him into a situation where he's going to strain himself for no particular reason so that the Celtics hinder their possibilities in the future. I would obviously like the Celtics to have the best chance of winning a championship going into the 2026-2027 season, and I think that might be the best chance if Jayson Tatum does sit out this entire year and the Celtics really do take this 1 year gap to really just restructure their contracts, figure out who can really stick out alongside Jayson Tatum, and evaluate what other moves they're going to have to make down the line. The Celtics still have draft capital, they still have tradable contracts, they still have younger pieces, so they will be able to make moves, maybe not this season, but in the season that Jayson Tatum comes back, or this season, or that trade deadline, or season after, to once again put up a juggernaut to go at that championship. And I would not be surprised if Brad Stevens does do that. So let me know your thoughts, like I said, down below in the comment section, what you guys are ultimately thinking on this Jayson Tatum news, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics.